Shalom, good evening. This is TV7 Israel News broadcast to you from Jerusalem. And in today's top stories, Israel raises its level of alert along its northern front amid rising tensions with the Lebanese Iranian proxy Hezbollah. Progress has reportedly been made vis-a-vis prospects of securing an American broker normalization deal between Israel and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Russia-US tensions are on the rise in Syria after President Vladimir Putin says his country is ready for any scenario. Tensions on Israel's northern front with Lebanon are on the rise amid repeated provocations by the Iranian proxy Hezbollah. Repeated provocations were recorded over the course of the month of July, with the latest including a number of Lebanese men waving Hezbollah flags, vandalizing the border security barrier, and crossing into the Alawite village of Rajal, which is under Israeli military control. This incident, which included UNIFIL forces making every effort to de-escalate tensions within the framework of its limited mandate, ended without casualties since the believed Hezbollah operatives retreated back into Lebanon after conducting a brief photo op. Meanwhile, Hezbollah Secretary General Hassan Nasrallah made a televised address to his followers in which he initially proclaimed that Israel and the United States are evidently deterred by Iranian prowess, while in tandem threatened the Jerusalem leadership not to test Hezbollah's resolve. Nasrallah further asserted, quote, Israel occupies parts of Lebanese territory and has the nerve to speak about Hezbollah provocations on the border when it itself is the side that engages in provocations. Hezbollah will not hesitate and will be prepared for any development or clash. Meanwhile, in Jerusalem, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu held a security cabinet meeting along with Defense Minister Yoav Gallant, Strategic Affairs Minister Ron Dermer, IDF Chief of General Staff Lieutenant General Herzi Halevi, and the Mossad Chief, as well as the ISA Director and the IDF Intelligence Directorate Head. During the course of this meeting, the Israeli Defense Establishment provided the Security Cabinet recommendations for possible operations vis-a-vis Hezbollah in particular and the Northern Front in general, after which Defense Minister Gallant has authorized the IDF's Northern Command Commander, Major General Uri Goldin, to deploy reinforcements along Israel's north and to prepare for a variety of possible actions, including preparations for a broad reaction to Hezbollah's separate provocations that, according to separate assessments, could essentially escalate into all-out war. In tandem, Jerusalem's top defense official also ordered a higher state of alert, as well as the highest level of readiness for a variety of possibility along Israel's northern border. Separately, the Prime Minister's office released a statement in which Netanyahu highlighted, quote, with respect to the threats emanating from Nasrallah's bunker, we aren't very impressed by them. Even Nasrallah knows it is not a good idea for him or for Lebanon to test us. It is important to highlight that while tensions between the Lebanese Iranian proxy Hezbollah and Israel are seemingly on the rise, in Lebanon's Palestinian Ain al-Hilwa refugee camp, deadly clashes erupted on Saturday between President Mahmoud Abbas's Fatah faction and rival Islamist Palestinian groups. The clashes erupted after the Fatah faction attempted to assassinate a leader of an Islamist group, prompting retaliatory attacks against Fatah installations and personnel, killing at least 9, including a Fatah commander, with dozens of others reportedly wounded. It is important to know that while clashes are seemingly intensifying, the leadership of separate Palestinian factions, including Fatah chairman Mahmoud Abbas and Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh, met in the Egyptian city of New Alamein as part of declared efforts to revive a process of long-stalled reconciliation deeply rooted in blood feuds since the Fatah-Hamas conflict of 2007.
I consider today's meeting of the General Secretaries for the Palestinian factions as a first and important step in continuing the dialogue, and we hope to achieve the objectives as soon as possible.
This meeting of 14 separate Palestinian factions, the majority of which are either loyal to Fatah or Hamas, was held under Egyptian auspices. That after a separate meeting was held in Turkey by Abbas and Hania, in which they pledged to pursue national unity and to discuss a common approach against Israel. Meanwhile, during yesterday's meeting, Abbas urged the separate factions to establish a committee that would work to unite the deeply divided Palestinian factions. Despite these efforts to end internal Palestinian strife, Ramallah officials who've spoken to TV7 on condition of anonymity believe that prospects of achieving a tangible breakthrough for reconciliation are near to none. Meanwhile, in the northern Samaria region of the so-called West Bank, IDF, ISA, and Border Police Special Operations Forces conducted extensive counter-terror activities over the course of the past 48 hours, during which a total of 21 suspected terror operatives were successfully apprehended. And while limited disturbances were cited, no injuries were reported among the Israeli troops. In other news, progress has reportedly been made vis-à-vis prospects of securing an American-brokered normalization deal between Israel and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. After meeting with U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan and CIA Director Bill Burns, Mossad Director David Barnea was said to cautiously acknowledge tangible progress. It's worth highlighting that while limited progress had already been reported on in recent months, Jerusalem has recently advanced a list of projects aimed at elevating prospective profitability of a Saudi-Israeli normalization accord, including via development of strategic infrastructure.
Today we are launching One Israel project connecting the whole country with a fast train from Kiryat Shmona in the north to Eilat in the south. This project is embarking with a huge multi-year budget, 100 billion shekel. I will add that in the future we will also be able to transport cargo by rail from Eilat to our Mediterranean, and will also be able to link Israel by train to Saudi Arabia and the Arabian Peninsula. We are working on this too.
Well, the Israeli premier announced the roughly 27.1 billion US dollars or 24.5 billion euros project last week during an interview to ABC News. Netanyahu highlighted deep collaboration between his government and the Biden administration, including on matters related to advancing peace with Saudi Arabia, which he asserted will change the world.
President Biden, the last conversation we had, invited me to the White House in the fall. I think it's in September, but we'll finalize a date. Look, I think our relations are very strong. I'm not just saying that. I think the cooperation on intelligence, on security, on strategic matters is as strong as it's ever been. I can tell you that we're working on things that I think will change history. Specifically, we're trying to block Iran's aggression, but also advance peace with Saudi Arabia, which in addition to the historic Abraham Accords with 4 Arab countries is changing the Middle East. And I think this will change the world. I think this will be a pivot of history. We're working on it. So I think the relations with the U.S. are as strong as ever. And believe me, the U.S. is our irreplaceable and indispensable ally. We have no better friend. And I can tell you that the United States has no better friend than Israel, not only in the Middle East, but in the world. As we move into a highly technological world, Israel's technological prowess serves the interests of both our countries and has saved many, many American lives.
Turning to Israel's northern neighbor Syria, where prospects of miscalculation between Russian and U.S. forces are seemingly on the rise. The latest in a series of dangerously close interactions by Russian aircraft and U.S. aircraft in the region. On July 23rd, a Russian fighter jet was recorded firing flares in the pathway of an American MQ-9 unmanned aerial vehicle, severely damaging its propeller while operating over Syrian skies. The U.S. military said in a statement that fortunately, the MQ-9 crew was able to maintain flight and safely recover the aircraft to its home base. Meanwhile, U.S. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin, while visiting Brisbane, Australia, called on Moscow to cease what he labeled as irresponsible behavior.
Regarding the irresponsible and dangerous behavior on the part of the Russians, we call upon the Russian leadership to make sure that they issue guidance to their troops to abide by the laws of the sky and make sure that they cease this irresponsible behavior. We'll continue to engage using the established channels to convey our concern, and we'll continue to engage senior leadership as appropriate. But again, we will continue to operate as we have always operated in the airspaces, and we will protect our interest and our resources.
In response to Secretary Austin's remarks during a press conference in Moscow, Russian President Vladimir Putin stressed that while Moscow isn't interested in war with NATO in Syria, Russia is prepared for any scenario.
We are always ready for any scenario, but we have. But no one wants this. And as per an initiative from the American side at one time, we created a special mechanism to prevent these conflicts. We have it so that the heads of several departments can directly communicate with each other and have the opportunity to consult on any crisis situation. And this suggests that no one wants any confrontation, but if anyone wants it, it's not us, but we are ready.
Thank you for watching TV7 Israel News. It is indeed good to be back. Please pray for the peace of Jerusalem and salvation of Israel. I'm Jonathan Hassan wishing you a Shavua Mevorach, and God willing, we'll see you again tomorrow at the same time.